The conference has not started. If you are the host, please enter your 4-digit host code to open the conference. If you are not the host, please press the star key to connect to the conference and wait. We will now connect you to your call. Please say your name. Your host has yet to join. Thank you for waiting. We will now connect you to your call. The host has joined the conference. Conference recording started.
Good morning, Dave.
Morning. Hey there, how are you?
Good morning.
Oh, we lost you. Bye, every night. Right, obviously, we're passed out the folders and we're doing our review of manifest, mails. Go. What you got?
I do. This is, we signed it last week or whatever,
This agreement?
and then,
Oh, this is to, allow the people who live in the, manufactured housing unit they have until they get, basically, I believe they're doing like a
Right.
stick-built house.
You approved it, and they signed it after you approved it, that's just so you could say that, see that
Oh,
it's
okay.
fully executed on.
All right. Thank you, I feel it that way.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we wanted to make sure you had enough copies of the budget committee schedule.
Yeah, that's
So Brian printed them, I printed them,
Oh, I
and Dave's on there making sure that we are definitely reviewing that today.
So I can just take one of these out of the folder?
That's what it says here, either one. I mean, I had printed them and handed them out anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's a schedule that was reviewed at the last budget committee. Already seen them, everything's on Mike's desk now.
I'm working on it.
I gave him the thickest one first, figuring that was, but,
Give the thickest one to the slowest guy. Nice. Can say that we made a school payment for July, so we continue to be on or about good standing dates, which is pretty good.
The only difference is that they wanted it on the first of July. They're gonna get it on the 31st.
that's that they're getting it all, maybe we're ahead of the game. Compared to other towns.
Traditionally, Effingham has struggled to make school payments, so it's nothing really different, except that we actually have the money to pay it. That's pretty good. Eversource, $366.
That bill includes, figured out finally, last year, NG billed it separately. This year, the bid through Lakes Region is billing, Eversource is billing the cost. So if you look at the front page, there'll be, I believe, a number in blue, which is the cost of your energy, and there's a number in green, which is the cost of the transmission of the energy. That's all in the same bill.
Now, is that for this building, or is that now the endless looking for the address?
I guess I'm asking, what are you asking, Mike?
The address of that,
Building, yeah.
the address of that big bill?
Big bill? It's on there. One of them says 68 School Street,
Yeah.
the other one says Storage. 68 School Street is this at the annex.
Okay, 'cause I saw that in the back of the bill, but sometimes it's also the address for billing, so sometimes it kind of,
No, you gotta look in the back, on the back.
that's the only address I saw for it then. So that's this and the modular behind us.
That's correct.
Okay.
But you got bills in there for the storage shed, the library, the transfer station, this building, and the two different fire stations.
Okay. We're getting more data from waste disposal.
We did or didn't?
We are,
Oh,
because,
good.
well, it's our bills.
Oh, they've itemized the differences based on the discussion you had?
No, for waste management. So a lot of demo and stuff is processing out, so that'll give you more information, kind of average and the statistical.
Perfect.
I'll have something, just, asterisk against the COVID year, I guess.
Brian, have you, added up a total of what the fee income has been from transfer station since March 14th?
I got a total of what?
Have you added up the fee total? What they've collected in fees at the transfer station?
Christine's working on a spreadsheet, we're putting that together now.
March 14th forward.
As we've discussed here, I was questioning exactly what the warrant had in it, and whether that actually included the stickers.
The fees that you write down individually.
It does include the stickers, it says all company. So, I went back and researched the warrant.
Good. Thank you.
Well, everything we can, right?
Didn't realize I had that. Wait a minute, he's in a black folder. Okay. I'll make a dent in the checkbook this month. So this week, really? School thing.
That's what I wanna meet with you afterwards to go over that. Where we are after the payment.
Where we are, what? With money?
Just kinda curious.
A lot less after this minute.
Kind of my point.
I'll be working through the checklist that the auditors sent tomorrow, and I'll get it out to each department what they need on Thursday.
Oh,
Start collecting that information in. Get the audit coming.
there are a lot of stuff that we don't have in-house from departments like the library, of course, but the fire department, PD.
I think that's probably, fire department, PD all run through our books. So, but, the stuff that Deanna's gotta collect up and get together, stuff that Lori has to put together, and stuff I have to put together.
Got it. Yeah, I wasn't sure what we were looking for on that.
The only outside agency is the library, and I'll get this and the stuff to them too. My plan is to have that to everybody's hands, close of business Thursday.
Okay.
My plan.
Okay.
You don't throw any wild curves at me in the next 2 days.
Not planning to. Appetizer?
I did learn that we can, we should be able to recoup all of the postage for the absentee ballot costs, from COVID-19 months.
That would be good. Hopefully a lot of folks do participate in the absentee balloting. That'll make things a lot easier on the election process.
I've got to sit and, meet with Deanna so that we can figure out how to track that so that we're able to show the state that we really did spend it on absentee ballots.
I hope that new machine will make that easier.
Well, I think what we'll do, again, I gotta talk to Deanna, but I think we might set up a separate code just for mailings for that, so that we can pull the code.
Yeah.
But I think probably there's gonna have to be, the state's gonna want some kind of an audit trail, so we'll have to somehow or other figure out how we show the number of ballots that were requested that we sent out, so that we, I don't run into a problem with the state sending it back.
Yeah, I think the tracking on the new, postal machine will probably make that really a lot easier. We can probably track other things that get caught up in the special needs of reporting.
Thanks, sir.
You're quite welcome.
But you're not gonna need me for about 2 minutes.
Sure.
That's consolidated, trying to set up like.
There you go.
I mean,
2 minutes, huh? The engineer will be here tomorrow to go through the setup for the phone system.
Nice.
They'll give me a time between 9 and 5 tomorrow.
Okay. Then, I know we've got several things on our agenda tomorrow. We're meeting with Mr. Espy at 9 o'clock at the cemetery. He's the trustee for the cemetery. Then we're coming back here to, go back to our regularly scheduled work session. I believe we're gonna have a guest coming in tentatively scheduled for 1 o'clock, should we still be here. Otherwise, I'll be meeting with Shane. So the board will, depending on the needs of the board's personal lives, they can be here or not. And then 5 o'clock, we have a meeting with, everybody for the hazardous, household waste day, the crew for a walkthrough at the elementary school at 5. So, good possibility we'll be around should you need us involved in that at any point, and to describe anything to us that we actually have to do on our end to support this upgrade. So, that's that. What else we got going?
Right. On this, waste management, still got Claudia's name on here?
What time
Have we had it taken off?
Yeah, we've tried to get that off. I don't know how many times Christine talked to him, and I've talked to him too, Fred.
She had a very good relationship with waste management, and they may have trouble letting go. All set there?
Yes, sir.
All right. And, I guess we'll get right into trying to salvage part of our day today. We do have a guest, expected at 10 o'clock. Mr. Eric Spofford from, Green Mountain Treatment Center is hopefully going to make it in here. And sort of that should be our only interruption, I believe. So, we'll move into approving the manifest in the amount of $568,882.92. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Brave man going forward. All right.
All in favor? Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Hal and I will state for the record that only slightly more than $16,000 of that was our town operating cost this month. $550,521 was to the school for the July school payment, which is pretty much the big gorilla of payments for the year. I believe there are no higher payments the rest of the cycle. All right, moving on then. In the signature, let me see, folder, we had the minutes of July 21st, regular session. I'll make a motion to approve.
Fuller, second.
All in favor?
Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Al and I. The non-public minutes of July 21st. Make a motion to accept.
I'll second that. Aye.
All in favor?
Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Al and I. I'll make a motion to accept the public hearing minutes of July 21st. Second?
Fuller, second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Al and I. Righty then, let's see. We had an action folder, which is the 2021 fiscal year budget schedule, and that is graciously provided to us by the hard work of our budget committee chairman, Mr. David Strauss. And I believe, although, Tom, I don't think you made that one.
No, I didn't.
So I know Chuck and I, we were good.
Yeah, we were good with it.
Do you have any concerns with the schedule?
No, I looked it over this morning.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
Then, we'll stand with the idea we were going to approve that, and I will make a motion to approve the schedule as Dave has outlined it for us.
Fuller, second.
All right, all in favor?
Fuller, aye.
Aye.
Hal and I, that way Dave can lock
There you go, Dave.
he can lock down his meeting schedule, as can we. Review of the mail, we had a signed agreement come back to us that was already approved, our portion of, on working with a property owner as they go through some construction of a new home. Let's see, we had a thank you from the Province Lake Association for us once again participating in the Lake Host Program. That was in the mail folder, as is the zoning officer's updated report, which is basically an email to keep us in the loop. And we had a couple of things going on there. We had some non-response follow-ups for people who got sent letters. And we have some compliance, confirmed compliance to remove a deck that was in the setback. We have a cabin in the wetlands that looks like it is going to court in August. So we'll see some expenses on that. I did have a phone conversation as a follow-up for the board with our zoning officer for the long in-process enforcement of junkyards in the town. So again, we're looking at kind of the worst offenders first process here, and Rebecca is moving forward on that. And she's going to send out a rat cart, which she calls rat cards, and that kind of just is descriptive to the residents on how her office interacts and the needs to file with her for permits in various situations. And of course, she's dealing remotely through emails and phone calls with the needs of people when they have questions, and she continues to answer those with other inquiries we get from outside the town, like restrictions and uses of properties as, applies to our zoning ordinance. So, that's the update from Rebecca. The administrator's comments, I guess we can go into that next here, Brian, if you're all set.
Yeah, do you wanna set up some interviews with a couple of the applicants for the TA position?
I have that here, and I figured that we
We're gonna look
would.
at them tomorrow. I wanna get into detail and discussion of them tomorrow,
Okay,
and then after that, set up,
all right, so you're not set to go forward with
Nope.
anything today?
Nope.
Tom, you good for tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, we'll put that as part of our session tomorrow.
And, I guess the telephone contract answered itself a few minutes ago, the engineer will be here tomorrow.
Okay.
If you need me to do anything on voting setup, ordering and paying for stuff, because I'd like to make sure that we have that so that we can put it into the COVID expense. And that has to be completed, in September. So we're gonna have to buy the stuff for the primary that we may have to use for the general election. Because the last date is that I can submit anything to the state for payment is October 1st.
Okay, quick thought on that, having met with, the town's moderator and, town clerk, tax collector, I think everything's pretty well, purchased unless we need some PPE, like masks for the door in case people don't have them.
yeah, I'm thinking we should have some for the door in case somebody doesn't have one.
Right.
Do we have face shields for any of the people that are working the tables?
We do. Randy, Fire Chief Burbank, supplied a lot of that for, this operation. Deanna has a supply. I do not know how big of a supply that is, but she does have some, so I think,
Stand-up screens and stuff to separate.
and we're gonna have a half a dozen tables that are, so we're gonna need 6 of those screens to petition 50% of a table like we're sitting at here today. So again, I think Deanna has the insight on what we do and do not have. So I think discussions with her would probably be able to confirm the majority of this.
I just wanna make sure we got, like, plenty of wipes for the tables and
wipes-
sanitizer available,
Well, I think sanitizer we have, I believe. Wipes are brutal to try and get, I understand. But I believe Christine really has captured, a large purchase early when COVID hit. And I don't know how the supply is holding up, but if we have anything, it's due to Christine's foresight on this. Christine,
in the closet.
we do have still enough to probably get us through.
Yeah, what we do need are more of those wipes, but they're hard to come by.
Right. So we might need to just use some kind of a disinfectant and paper towel kind of thing, Lysol,
Bleach
something,
water.
bleach water.
Yep.
We'll find a way, if we can't get the quick, easy,
There are ways you could make wipes, people are doing that now with sanitizer that you get from places that, where the winemakers that have now gone to making sanitizer, and you put them into a jug and, with a type of paper cloth and fill it up and then use them as wipes.
okay?
So there is a process for doing that, it's accepted.
But, continually at these meetings, we come more upon you, Brian. So I was gonna say, if you could work with Christine to verify what our supply is and our needs may project out to be.
Brian set that up, because he wants to take a trip down to the winery.
Yeah,
Do you want me to sit down with Deanna and come up with a list of what we're gonna need for our work the polls? I kinda get an idea of what,
that would be great. I mean, I'm sure, Brian, if you don't mind having a little help on,
I'd like to be there so that I
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure we get it
uh,
purchased.
but I'm just
so
thinking
that
of
we
something,
can-
I might remember something I was come down there
sure.
during COVID, but this, the setup that will be something.
The more people looking at this, the better, I think. Mask, as Chuck and I were just touching on, I think is the big issue because nobody will be allowed into the school unless they're wearing a mask. And that's just the bottom line rule. It's gonna be a one-off health ordinance put together. It'll be, provided by our legal team, signed by us. It's mandatory from the moderator and the Board of Selectmen. And, without doing so, a lot of our poll workers will choose not to participate in the function, and we can't allow that to happen. So masks are going to be required to enter the polling place, so we need to have a pretty reasonable supply here. If we get 600 people, we need a supply of masks to be able to accommodate.
Actually, we need to do that sooner rather than later, because everybody else will be trying to scoff that.
Correct, yeah.
Well, and whatever you're thinking of, remember, yeah, well, at least double it, because the November election actually brings out significantly more people than the primary. Deanna had numbers that showed previously, prior to having these ballot options of mailing in, we were running about 600 people for a primary, high 580s or something, and which could go as high as 1,000 on general election day. So we need to prepare for that. And if we had any left over for March, probably not the worst thought to consider that that's kind of just creeps up on us quickly. So, all right, so I'll move on to your next item, I guess, Brian.
Well, you signed bill today, but you did not have one that came in from Avatar. And that's only because I don't know how that, you'll have it next week. I just don't know how the accounting was set up on the 5-year contract to put aside money each year for the 5th year update, which we're in now. We're now getting billed for. And I'm just trying to figure out how you all set that up in the accounting process so I can take the money out of whatever place it's supposed to be coming from.
Well, we had a carryover of $27,000 for last year.
And you should have had carryovers from the previous years also.
No, that fell apart, apparently in the past. A lot had to do with, external costs from Avatar providing here, because we didn't have, quite frankly, Glenn. The office staff wasn't set up to do the work that Gwen is doing now, or in theory, what my understanding is a lot of the work either didn't get done or was passed off to Avatar that charges a higher rate than what, in-house costs would be, because they send somebody here and they do all the data processing. So we only have last year's carryover to augment what we budgeted for this year, which should cover it, but it was $27,000. Going forward through next year, once we get into next year, we'll be on a whole new contract will come out, and we'll structure that going for a 5-year process. And in that, we'll try to capture the original concept again of budgeting an average and then moving things forward. So this year, we won't have anything to move forward theoretically. Whatever we got to work with, that $27,000 and the budgeted amount on the operating budget this year should cover the cost we're seeing. If that's not clear, I can work with you.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I just am trying to figure out where people put that money in QuickBooks before I arrived. So, my question is, if the rest of the board's okay, can I kind of pick on you sometime between now and next Tuesday?
Sure.
Preferably Thursday or Monday, or even maybe tomorrow afternoon if we have some time.
Yep.
To sit down with me at QuickBooks and see if we can locate where that is or where we're going to put it, if the rest of the board is okay with it.
Dave might have an idea on that, too.
Yeah, Dave Strauss might have input on that. But I'm certainly going to be available tomorrow. The whole day is scheduled for town events, so.
My concern is I don't see it. I understand the carryover, and we did carry it over, but I don't know where people, before I arrived, put that money.
I don't know either. You'd have to go back for pre-2015 record keeping to identify that, probably back as far as 12 and 13, should that information exist. And you could even find it. So I think, maybe that carries over and just augments our operating.
Probably, if we cannot locate it in the books, I'm gonna carry it over as a liability, as the RA told me to carry over Elm Street Bridge, and we'll do that until the auditor tells us we did do it right.
Yeah, the only, not sure what the difference would be from a carrying over of your operating budget versus a carrying over of a warrant article. And Elm Street Bridge warrant article, this was actually operating budget, can you carry it over and put it into your operating budget? Or could you add it into the assessing line items as something? I don't know.
My concern is, and Dave and I have talked about this also. My concern is not to put stuff into the operating budget that was not voted as a bottom line operating budget by the legislative body. They voted an operating budget, and I'm trying to keep that clean.
Right.
And that's why I moved the COVID-19 monies, which actually the contract said we needed to do anyway, because it was not meant to augment budget items, it was meant to pay the absolute requirement put forth by the money. So, for instance, firefighters got money out of a liability account, which has the COVID-19 stipend, and so did the police. That didn't affect the police, the fire.
But you just touched on something though, that it was voted in the past to do just what you said, augment that operating budget. So maybe that's something to hang your hat on, and moving that $27,000 in the assessing category, and maybe we expand as a separate, maybe you can quantify it in another way. We may have to talk with, Michelle or somebody at DRA, but we can pick this up tomorrow, and you and I can see if we can answer it. Maybe, I know Dave is listening, if he has some knowledge, prior knowledge, maybe he can contact you, and we'll follow up on that.
And other than that, I'm done.
Oh, okay. All right then. We'll go, to Selectmen's comments, I guess, Tom?
Found out on the Boston Post cane that, can't go off the voter rolls like we thought we might be able to.
Just because you can't get the first name
Add off of it.
right from, but you can get the names, right? We can get the names off the registered names of the voter list.
Yeah, we got names to send those.
You can't tell how old they are.
Yeah, they won't tell you how old they are, but from that list, if you're on that list, you're a qualifier. And in general knowledge, in a town this small, we're going to be able to identify the most senior of our senior population, to some level. I mean, personal knowledge from Deanna and that office, the folks we have working in the office who have contact with the general public, or some kind of general knowledge on, like was sent to you, some people pointed out. I think being on that list is still relevant, though, as a qualifier, but, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right. No, I didn't make copies either, but, Christine came up with this, instead of a letter, and I didn't make copies so you could see them.
Okay.
This is the other letter, which I think that one is a lot easier for people,
Yeah,
instead of trying to call in and just guess, no room for. Yeah.
yeah.
Like you complete a form,
Yeah.
send a little data. Yeah.
And I didn't know if maybe you could, we could get it on, social media too.
Yeah,
Effingham Connection, beautiful Effingham.
whenever, however,
Like we did,
so you want to get it on the website and?
yeah, on the website.
And social media tends to pick that up.
Correct, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And, just get that out there and see what we get back, and then we can send them on a form when we get a name back. They can fill it out, give us the information, and
Yep.
their proof like it says. So, if you guys good with that, go with this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good. Simple.
And I guess the question I would have is still, do you want to keep it on the registered voter list to be a pre-qualified? Because you're going to need a way to cut off
Yeah.
when you're accepting somebody, so somebody doesn't come out of the woods a day later and say, well, what about my Uncle Charlie?
Yeah. And the cutoff date, we'll run it as close to the town meeting as we can get. Only because this week, we kind of proved it out, sad to say, we lost a couple members of town of Effingham.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, so that's right there. We gotta keep it open.
Yeah, I
I would say do strong marketing like 6 weeks ahead of the town meeting.
Right.
And just do it from like February 1 to, first week of March and.
Yeah.
That's
I think about
kind of
it.
the enrollment period, so to
We'll
speak.
get a lot of dribbles in from it. It gives people plenty of time to think and all that on it. Who they,
Because it's not gonna involve a big decision. It's looking at half a dozen or a dozen forms and who's the oldest and,
well, I already got almost 12.
okay,
I do 12, 11 or 12. I think one was, but
perfect.
that's down at 9.
I think you could also, like, time frame wise and coordinating with the civic awards, you know, when we start looking for participation by people that are appointed, elected, all like that in the town, we
Included
can
in that process.
start, connected to that, build off of it perhaps, because that comes out somewhere,
Yep.
January-ish or maybe a little before.
All righty. And, still working with, trying to get a contract with the transfer station. That's just an ongoing deal. And last week I had a lot of homework on the non-public, so, which took quite a bit of my time. I didn't get into it, but,
I think we know where you're going, so
yeah.
you understand. I think the heat's slowing some of us down too.
For the home responsibilities.
Yeah.
You all set? Okay, let's see. The governor signed, Bill HB 1111 last week, which allows communities to band together and form communication districts, for lack of a better definition, which is good for the whole Carroll County Broadband Initiative. Speaking of the initiative, the latest numbers came out for the online survey that's being taken. It's available. It is up on the town website. It's a direct link to the survey. You can print the form too. The company that's doing the survey, based on the grant we got, is looking over the 60-day period of time, trying to get around 20 to 25% of the inhabitants of each town to respond to the survey. Effingham currently has responded with 73 people in the survey out of over 1,000 possibilities. So we're running at about 6.5%. If anybody can take that survey, please do if you haven't.
That's to capture the speeds of the internet.
It's capturing the vendor, the speeds, the information is totally confidential. It's just a matter of being able to identify what's available throughout the town of Effingham, which will help the feasibility study to determine whether it will be feasible to move forward with a project to provide fiber optic cable and internet service to every resident in town. There was a letter last week that I saw from, Tim White regarding the Elm Street Bridge as far as breaking it up. The engineering reports that came out this week, within the last week, I think it was report number 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
I have passed over to Effingham, New Hampshire Connect, as well as Teresa, to put up on the town website. In that report, it actually addresses the fact that the engineer and the contractor have discussed and are working on mitigation efforts further than what they were already doing.
Yeah, I'll touch on that real quickly, Chuck. In my meeting with the contractor and the engineer, a few days back last week, I related Mr. White's concerns, pointed out to the areas, and actually provided, initially at the moment, that time, some drop cloth materials to put over the guardrails, so any further, jackhammering, which was taking place then, we stopped a lot of the dust and certainly all the chipping and stuff, and they're following up on what I gave them, and they'll probably improve on that system. Mitigation is a little more complicated, but.
Yeah, in looking and reading over the 2 reports that came in, for anybody that's listening to this meeting, it's worth going in and looking at the reports, because there are some very good pictures regarding the work that's being done as far as what's being jackhammered up on the bridge deck, as well as the joint that's going to be removed and repaired. So it'll give you an idea of what the work project's about.
Just again, to touch on this, too, we're trying to get this out there. There is substantial damage, degradation to that bridge. The abutments One of the steel beams that was affected by being in the low corner where the seal would, failed, and all that salt and everything came in there and really ate away concrete and the steel underneath. So there's, all the steel plates underneath there that you don't see unless you go under it. They're gonna be replaced, completely taken out. New bolts, new steel, and the repairs to the girder, and they're gonna, descale, or whatever you'd like to call it. The beam's about 12 feet back, and so there's a significant amount of work going on under that bridge once they get through the joint coming out. Some of it's only access. After you pull the joint, you have to, access from that little window up there that you're gonna have on it. It's not as easy as some might think.
Good, and reports will continue to be posted as they come in from the engineering company regarding the progress. I had a discussion with Teresa Swanik last week, regarding secure storage for records for the planning board, the zoning board, CIP, and anybody else in committees in town that needs a secure site. Because of the recordings that are going on for the non-FaceTime meetings, the file sizes are extremely large in gigabytes. And they've been trying to use a free Dropbox account, but because of the way Dropbox works, it also takes into account the free part of it, your personal usage, and once you get to a certain level, nobody can see the files anymore. So they've got a problem with visibility of files, being able to do minutes and things like that, because it can't be transferred easily or seen easily. They've also been using multiple USB drives to store stuff, and quite frankly, long-term, using portable things that could get lost are not where to be. So I recommended that Teresa go in and purchase, with the free planning board Dropbox site that's there, to purchase the 1-year subscription for Dropbox, which will then move it up to a 2 terabyte drive secure storage facility, and then put those records from the USB drives and the other places they've got them on that site. It also means, from a town standpoint, any of the other boards that might need to have access and backup to an online storage facility, that can be set up, and they can have access to that, and it can be locked down so only they can see it. Transfer station. Go ahead, Ryan. Yep.
Jump in. I would like to suggest that maybe we speak with Linhart Systems regarding the storage, because it might be beneficial to look at the purchase of a large storage bank here that then can go to our kryptonite cloud for backup and purchase that with COVID-19 monies, because this issue is being created by COVID-19 funds.
I'm okay with that.
So
Sounds like a great idea.
before we spend a whole lot of money,
It's already spent. I had to buy it. She needed it for a purpose. So,
I will
at worst, we're up $119, period.
try, but that, if my understanding of the COVID-19 monies is correct, once COVID-19 monies are over, we're paying for it.
Yep.
If we already have the storage, and I think it's kryptonite is the cloud that we use for our backup storage, if we already have that, and we buy something, which is what he recommended we might have to go to in the future anyway, a bank of storage that sits here and it backs up to the kryptonite, we can probably buy that right out with COVID-19 monies. So I just would like to explore that before we spend.
Yeah, that's the permanent solution. This is, what I'm describing today is definitely income.
And that's part of what we're paying him to do for us.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think anybody objects to having you do
Not
that.
at all. And there are ways to do that where people can then have an access to be able to get into a certain part of the site to do their business. Last item for me is transfer station ongoing CE training. I'm going to work with the guys. I talked with them earlier in the year, and basically, they're currently up to date on their CE requirements, and we're looking at basically trying to get them a little ahead on their CE, look at setting up an online video or teleconference from this office, and have the guys come in and just go through the 2 hours, whatever, to be certified. So I'll work on that within the next week or two, and I've had discussions with the person up in Concord.
Did you see the email that I sent to all three of you about the online training?
Yeah, I've actually already had major discussions with them about a month and a half back, and she shipped me a personal email with like 4 pages of stuff that was good. So, Mike, that's all I got.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got a few things, not a lot today, I'll get into, but I'm gonna take a little break from, getting into my stuff because we are pretty much up against the 10 o'clock hour, and we have a guest here today, Mr. Eric Spofford from the Green Mountain Treatment Center. Thank you for coming in, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How's everything going up on the hill, as I call it?
It's going good. It's busy. This COVID pandemic has put a lot of pressure on addiction and mental health services. A lot of people are needing help more than usual. So we've been trying to keep up with some of those demands. But operationally, things are fine.
Makes sense. I think there's a greater sense of stress in the community as a whole these days.
Stress is a rising tide for a lot of people. So, we've seen people that had, little problems that became big problems. It's exacerbated a lot. So, but, yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Do you want to recap this?
Yeah, do you want to say anything about this? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike and I have been in conversation for a little bit. I appreciate him very much. He's taken the time out of his busy schedule to come up and visit us and done a lot of work with us around this issue around Green Mountain's use of our local EMS services. Calls that, sometimes with people, just a lot of people. And so, we understand that that's been an uptick and that's had a financial impact on the town. So the agreement, or the offering, I should say, whatever the correct way to say that is that, we're happy to donate money to the town to offset some of that cost and remove the financial burden from taxpayers. We've agreed that, doing the math on this, that our yearly burden, our piece of the pie is what it looks like, seems to be, and I think this is generous, but we're happy to help because we appreciate the town, is about $40,000. And so we intend on making a donation quarterly of $10,000 a quarter. Brought our first donation here.
Thank you, sir.
From us to the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
very much. This is a huge help, by the way, and I'm just going to say, I really, being involved with you, I really appreciate that this was all your decision and your board coming to look at this, and you took in a ton of information and looked it all over and worked things out. And I think we covered it. Your usage, as you put me honest, we were saying it, was actually typically lower than the peak that we've just recently seen. And as you say, this is generous because I think it is, on average, this is probably covering, at this point, more than what your usage probably has been. So you're definitely on the high side, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we appreciate it. It's important to us to be good neighbors to the town. We had a little bit of an uphill battle entering the community because we feel like we took some of the stigma of informed use with Lakeview. We hope that, we're coming up, February will be 5 years. So we've been out by quick, right? Yeah, and so we hope we've had, besides the ambulance calls, a decent track record, and if there's anything we can ever do in the community to help out, we're happy to assist, and happy to provide this, hopefully we can lose some pressure on the tax dollars, and, yeah, that's it.
It's going to be a big help this year with our budgets kind of influx with COVID and a lot of things going on in town financially for the town.
Yeah.
It's a big help. I think an understated point you've made to me has been that you're looking to participate in other things in the town that your company has the resources for to help out with. And you're looking for those things that we're doing in town that perhaps you could help out with. So, for the other people in this room, that's something to be aware of because, it really doesn't get out there. I haven't discussed it a lot. So, if there's things that you really think that would align well with Eric and his, company, please, let's let him know about it.
Yeah, please let me know. We're looking to be a positive member of the community, a positive addition to Effingham, not someone that takes away from. So whatever it is, picking up trash on the side of the road on a green project or, whatever. We need to certainly be as creative as we can be. But we want to be a good neighbor, as we are in all the other, towns and municipalities that great recovery centers operate. So, we look forward to having a good relation. Is this a good time to maybe preview,
Yeah, sure. I mean, I covered, some of that at the hearing that you, because we kind of bounced the date on you, couldn't be there, but we tied that in, but certainly this is a greater audience, so.
Yeah, and this is a recorded session that'll actually be playable back, very much like Government Oversite's done in the past. So whatever information you have, people can refer back to later if they didn't get to it.
absolutely. One of the things that we're doing now is we're working with, an engineer and an architect, and we'll be coming in front of the planning board, an application to come in front to build a new structure on property. This new structure, will not affect our donation because we want to remain, an addition to the town, but it will reduce our EMS funds. This is a significant investment building at I-2 construction code, which is crosswalk similar to a hospital. And so it's going to have more capabilities to do more on-site and have less need to bring people to Huggins, a hospital or Memorial, Spear, whatever it is, on property. And so it'll be good for limiting impact to the town, and it will also use property. It's a multi-million-dollar structure that we're building, so I'm sure that'll generate more revenue.
So Eric, just from the standpoint of kind of driving by from the roadway because of your gates, when you look up on the property, is it like going to set to the left, to the right, or behind, or?
We're actually, when I leave here, I'm meeting the engineer there, and we're looking for it. The problem that we're working on now is it's literally the side of the mountain.
It is.
And so the grade from start of the building to back of the building is at a 16% pitch. And so we're thinking about positioning it on the right side, but we think that is going to be a little troublesome and will require big retaining walls behind it to make up for the grade. And so now what we're looking at today is potentially shifting it to the left side, to the further side of the property, and kind of tucking it in up over there. And so, see how it works with the grade.
Is the steep slope on that, the left side, a little less dramatic?
We only have topo on one side of the property right now, so we're doing topo today on that side of the property to get actual numbers. But whether it is or is not, even if it was the same, it gives us more room to level up the slope at like a 3-to-1 slope with just more space, because it's not backed up by buildings right behind it, and the leach field is to the left of the driveway, and, the greater driveway is right there. And so it just gives us a little more elbow room to play the grade and have something like best happen. Yeah.
I think we probably didn't get hurt, but a multi-million-dollar facility is a big, offset on taxes. It's not an offset to you, but to the average.
Not an offset.
The average homeowner.
I'm well prepared for that. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be, again, another means in which, we can contribute more than what we currently want.
And, then just that's just something you touched on again too, a minor item, which is like the trash that unfortunately collects in mass on the sides of our roads. If you're, in a position next spring to provide any personnel that wants to help out, we do a walk through the town's roads with our conservation.
Please make sure you know about that. One thing we have is a lot of human beings.
Awesome, that would be, we can never cover enough of the roadway, so that
with addiction treatment and recovery, one of the biggest pieces of recovery is finding a means in which to give back. And so we like taking other facilities, we take clients out and do these projects in the towns all the time to get them to give back.
Oh, wow.
Addiction is a disease of self and selfish selfishness, and so we get a lot of people that have been takers, you know, for a very long time. And so we try, one of the things we're establishing with them clinically is to shift that perspective on life instead of what can life do for me and what can I get for life, bringing it to what can I do for life and what can I give back. And by giving, we get the reward. And so we would appreciate the opportunity to put that to work.
We will look for things to.
It's usually targeted around Earth Day. This year we did it because of the whole COVID thing. We kind of did the 3 weeks of April, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we ended up with some extremely good turnouts this year with people around town.
Yeah, count us in, give us some territory to cover, and we'll get it done.
Will do. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, pleasure to meet everybody.
A pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for doing it. I mean, not to be Goshen when somebody hands you a check to go right through the money and that while they're standing there, but I think you need to make this part of the record and express what you're doing here for the town as a whole. So, we delve into this, we have a check here for $10,000 from Green Mountain Treatment Center. So I just want to make sure that the record and the minutes reflect that. And I want to thank you again, Eric, for doing this. It's desperate, it's needed on our end. Like, not needed, we're not that horribly shaped, but it's really a great offset to some of the things we're facing this week. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's great.
Wonderful. Well, happy to help.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I'll let
much.
you guys get back to your business.
Good.
All right.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch soon.
Super.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. I'm going to turn this over to our town administrator, Mr. Burke. A check for $10,000. Sir. Thank you. All right, now I guess it's back to the issues that I had in front of me here, which I'm running pretty lean on things I want to cover today, so that should be good news to most. One of the things is we have
So let's time it. Based on that conversation, let's time it.
there's always one in the room,
What do you got this week, Chuck? 10 or 20?
except this room, there seems to be more than one. Okay, so Steve Schofield Auctions has provided us some a contract, rules of the road is how he operates, agreements to enter into with the town. So if you have not had a chance to look at this, I hope you will. I think you all have copies, do you not? Maybe not with you today, but so there is 2 properties that are in here that I think that won't be handled by Mr. Schofield because there is the sales here would probably be under the terms as justice may require because they would be butter sales and
They're landlocked pieces, right?
landlocked pieces, which it wouldn't really be fair of us to put it out to the general public only to have somebody buy something they can't get access to.
Well, we can build a helicopter pad.
True.
Setbacks might not be there.
They're actually reasonably sized properties, one of them anyway is. But these 2 items, I figure when you get through a number 6 and 8 on your card when you get to see them. And let's see, so 6 and 8 we probably will need to be removed. And another one I believe is probably not ripe for sale, so to speak, and that is number 4, which I think that should probably be held off for a couple of years and reassessed then. So we would have, it looks like 7 parcels that we could auction off. And we need to probably cover this in our work session as to maybe some minimum requirements for sale. There's deposit amounts in here that Steve is, I keep wanting to call him Dave, Steve has supplied that I'm not sure coincides with what we would really want to have as a number. Some of them maybe it's higher, and some probably lower just because of our knowledge of the property. So something to walk through.
So the two that are landlocked, is Gwen writing letters to those property owners and asking them, or is she waiting for direction from us, or?
She, I believe, has already gotten responses back. I
Oh.
had asked her to take this on probably a month or so ago.
Okay,
So I believe the letters have gone out and reasonable timeframes have been met to have responses. So Gwen will be the one who actually can provide more information on that, and the prospective property owners, because I think in these cases, the abutters have not had an interest except for one. So if we're down to the one, we had that contact, we can arrange a deal with that property owner, to get these off our tax rolls, get them back on the tax rolls and off our list of properties. So again, I'd like to go over that tomorrow, so if you gentlemen have an opportunity to go through that information, that would be great. And as, Chuck had alluded to earlier, we had narrowed down out of, more than a dozen, I think, or roughly a dozen applicants for the town administrator's position to 4 applicants. So we want to capture that tomorrow as to anybody we want to have in for an interview. And I think we should consider another round of advertising. As Brian, I believe, said, we have some other platforms we haven't advertised on to diversify a little, so maybe we want to look at that tomorrow as well. Then the next thing I had to cover was on work session stuff. We, in our public hearing, had fire prevention and inspection ordinance. I have not found my minutes, or my notes that I took that during this public hearing, but there were significant amount of revisions that we were going to make. If anybody has captured any of that and would like to tackle that, if we have time tomorrow, that would be a good one.
I'll take a shot later today on reformatting the whole fire inspection.
Okay.
I know that was when we had a whole bunch of stuff that we
There was a lot there, and I
needed to reconsider.
yeah, and I think a lot of it, well, not all of it, but a significant portion revolved around a fee schedule for violations.
Yeah.
So tackling that would be good, and
You are putting an awful lot on your work session tomorrow because you already had the personnel policy,
yeah,
CIP, winter road maintenance contract, and I've got to go get my notes to remember the other 2.
okay, well, CIP, just so everybody knows, there was a survey thing sent out from the chair of the CIP committee. I addressed that in my response. I addressed that, but I sent it to the board members as well. So if they wanted to add anything in or reflect a different perspective than what I outlined, at least we can get it going, because we're never going to cover it in the meeting. It's just too much detail that goes into these things. So at least I have a form that we can work off of. So if anybody here wants to say, change something that I have written or add to it, we can cover that. So if anybody's put anything together, I'm hoping that'll help expedite, as you say. The other issue is the personnel policy. I think in there, the money handling procedures that was established by Brian and Deanna, we're probably going to need copies of those, whatever you're doing, the latest version of whatever's actually taking place, and apply that to the personnel policy. I think most of the work was done. Capturing maybe the vacation issue was...
Well, part of the vacation issue was, were we able to track by the hours?
Yeah.
And Brian found out in QuickBooks we can do that, so.
So I think for the most, with any work we do on the personnel policy is probably just to finish what we kind of skimmed over, because we need a little more detail. So there again, I think we're pretty close.
I'd like you to give a little bit of thought to, because I don't have a list of exactly what you budgeted for hours for some employees. Others I do. But in order to be able to track the hour,
If you
I
give
need
me,
to know that.
if you give me the missing components, that you have the name of who you're don't have, I have the budget records that we, budgeted for the personnel, so I can give that.
Yeah, I'm missing it, the transfer station people.
Got it, I'll get you that.
Okay.
Let me just make a quick note of that.
28, 26, and something else.
I believe, well, I'll get you the accurate stuff.
Because if it's a small deviation from 30, I think for simplicity, we just figure it's 30.
Well, I'll get.
Otherwise I come up with a fraction of hours.
Yep.
Well, I'll get you the, transfer station personnel's budgeted times, and then we can, once you've got that, if you run into some problems in using that data, we can talk around, okay? Can't say but there we go. All right,
Road maintenance, winter maintenance contract?
winter maintenance contract, we have a lot of that, I think, well, I've gone through and I've done some markups. Chuck,
Can you send those markups over to me?
I don't, I did them physically.
Okay.
I didn't have a digital copy. The only thing that Christine sent me out was the revisions for the 1-year contract, which we entered, which isn't what we need. We need the base contract for the full 3 years, and if that's in digital form, perhaps Chris can send that out, and we'll start off that.
Okay.
Is it base 3 years?
Yeah, it's a 3-year contract, and that should have come out in, I'm gonna say probably 2017. That would have been 17, 18, 19, 19, 20. So, yeah, and you might have one from 2000, a prior contract for 3 years that would have. Anything you find, if you can scan them or whatever else in the field. Yeah, we're looking to go through all the language on those contracts to, what are the requirements, what are the commitments the contractor makes, what are the roads we want them to cover, all that, all the text of behind the scenes stuff.
Okay, I know that. Okay.
So we'll get that and we can start chipping away with that. We have a little bit of time on that one, so if we don't get it all taken care of in one session, we can work on it individually, reconvene on that one. Was there another item there, Brian, that you said we put on that long list?
Why don't you keep talking and I'll go get my sheet.
Okay, because there again,
Yeah, I had personnel, winter road, and CIP and the survey.
and the survey,
CIP survey.
CIP survey, okay.
That's what I originally had my notes for my thing.
So we have a good amount of ground-based work on pretty much everything that's there. And we may not absolutely conclude anything, tomorrow on any of these items, but we're gonna be pretty darn close on most, I think.
Yeah.
1 o'clock too? And 1 o'clock, we have, a visit, so we can stay through till then. And,
I'm sure we'll be here.
yeah, I imagine. Fire safety would be the other one.
Bring lunch tomorrow?
Yeah, right.
Mike, what is the 1 o'clock one? Do I have to post that?
We may have, it would be a personnel-related issue at 1 o'clock for non-public, so I wouldn't post anything just yet. But we have somebody coming in who'll be talking to us on personnel issues. So, the only other thing, I think, well, I have two things here. One is, Mr. Burbank has provided, Fire Chief Burbank has provided his view of what a full-time fire department would look like. And what I mean by full-time is having 2 people for 8-hour day, Monday through Friday. And I believe this is consistent in the actual ability of us to lower property insurance rates in the town. At least when I looked into this a couple of years ago, when I first got on the board, I had reached out to some resources and talked to some people, including my insurance company. And Effingham can't get the break that I was looking at unless we do this. I believe that maybe there's other towns, I believe Wakefield had done this some years ago. And this will actually get you maybe as like category 8 or something in the way the insurance companies rate you. and that's where you can see, a reduction on your insurance because of the coverage of the fire department.
I wanna look into that.
I would.
I believe that's 24-hour full coverage, not part-time full coverage.
I think there was a level that was part-time to get us in there. I'm sure you could be right. I'm not saying it
This would
absolutely.
definitely help us get a better rating, period.
Well, this would definitely help us getting, a rating. My belief is, and this is going back to 2018, so it needs a refresher review, a new look at it. But I believe this would qualify us to actually get some level of a discount. We need to confirm that, of course.
Could our current fire carrier tell us back on that?
I don't know, because they do like a municipal versus homeowner.
But they still have to rate.
The place that you need to look for the information is the insurance commissioner's office in the state of New Hampshire. He can tell you that piece of information almost instantly.
Okay.
I believe Mike is right that there is a reduced rating. However, if you're breaking on it, don't know if it can get you down in the rating. You have money through Friday day coverage, because most fire departments have the greatest trouble getting people to respond during the day, but they work at jobs and they're able to get to respond more at night and on weekends than they can during the day. And so that's why that's why the insurance rate gives you a lower rate.
Yeah.
But what that does to your insurance cost, I knew a long time ago, but I don't remember. But the insurance commissioner has that information, because he's the one that sets the price.
Okay.
All right, so, back to what Mr. Chief Burbank is discussing here. His way was to look for a sum of money outside of the town tax rate, which I don't think that would work. I think that we would have to be inclusive of our tax rate to pay for this. So, the offset I would be looking for here is, because homeowners' rates would get reduced, that would justify any tax increase. If you're not gonna pay any more, or you actually pay less for your homeowners, that could cover the cost. So it's a little bit of a review with the Department of Revenue Administration, just to see how that gets paid. I'm not sure we have a multiple choices here. I think it's strictly for the tax rate to pay for this. I think it might be problematic to try and go around and collect $60 on an independent basis as well. So, what we've got here proposed is that the rationale behind it is the volunteer fire service is experiencing a decline in the number of people willing to give up time away from family and full-time jobs to join being a part-time volunteer fire personnel, with most of the people working out of town and most employees unwilling to allow employees to leave for fire calls. Those employees would lose money, of course, leaving their jobs. So this creates a problem for getting staffing at this point. It's getting harder and harder to recruit people. Then the added and training involved to become a firefighter, it's 212 hours, and a basic EMT is 110 hours. So this is a burden for people to actually avail themselves of that level of training. And every year, our call numbers are climbing. There's just more going on. There's more people, more activity. So to cover things during the week, this is really where Randy'd like to see things go. And while on duty, per diem staff will ensure that the cleaning of the station, apparatus, medical equipment, check all the equipment, and issue burn permits, do inspections and fire safety, ensure safety compliance, perform welfare checks of elderly people, perform home fire safety inspections, respond to calls for service, and any other projects directed by the chief. So there's quite a number of services that do take place during the week that would be covered, which is difficult now to get covered, because I think Chief Burbank probably is doing the majority of this and or with few other individuals that are kind of the main staple to be available. So I think we need to take a hard look at this. His numbers initially say to put 2 people on from 8:30 to 6:30 every day, Monday through Friday, is looking at about $61,000. And when you divide that by 260 work days per year, that equals $234 and change per day, or $117 and change per person per day. So I think it's a reasonable amount when you break it down to the per person per day point. So now it's how we can do it. Of course, the budget committee and other thoughts will have to go into this.
Just curious, his number there that he just read off, is he including like with the increase in electricity? Like that, heat in the winter, these increases and all that too?
Electricity would be probably an uptick. The heat in the winter time, I'm not sure. I think they heat the building to some level all winter long because they need to maintain the heat. So they don't freeze.
I didn't know if that'd be up high because people involved, not just vehicles.
Well, that would be, more of the budgeting process. I'd expect a lot of those kind of questions to come about.
Yeah, I'm just curious, does that include benefits?
No, I don't. I'm not. We wouldn't be prepared to be able to do that. So that's another thing. If you have 2 people and you're structuring it this way, is it the same 2 people, or do you have a rotating part-time staffing? So there's a lot of moving parts here to be discussed, as you gentlemen are pointing out, as well as would there be an offset in other things that take place on like a Saturday? We have a certain amount of staffing that goes in Saturday to perform these tasks. So there might be a little bit of give and take here. We might get something, reduced pricing in some areas.
Whoever checks with the insurance commissioner ought to give the insurance commissioner both scenarios, rotating part-time staff versus permanent full-time staff. Because I do think that the insurance break happened with rotating part-time. So I just want to, and that's because of a training issue, and whether they're as well trained as full-time staff.
I imagine that might, I'm going to guess, go to certification levels. But
I think,
point well taken.
I think whoever checks ought to check both scenarios to make sure that you're comparing apples and apples.
Yep, staffing requirement. Got it. So, again, this is what Chief Burbank put forward, something I had been considering a long time ago, so when he brought it up, it was no problem for me to request something in writing from him so that we could at least do a good background check on whether this makes any good sense to us, if there's a financial offset for the citizens in one way or another that would provide the increase in taxation. I know, Chuck, you were part of that. We'll pursue it, I should imagine, right? Yep. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to keep that right with my policies that we're going to be updating with the fire department. And the last item is we took an additional week to review where we felt we needed to go in regard to the police department staffing. And Chuck had a 4 pages, I believe, Chuck had on his list yesterday when we met to discuss this, of all the back history that we've experienced in this position, where we think things could or should go, some opinions, some pros and cons, some efforts to assess where funding levels and interactions with the budget committee may or may not leave us, and building off, Tom, you had brought up your issues and concerns and thoughts and considerations first, then we went through Chuck, and then I covered a shorter synopsis of what Chuck had put together. I had, and in the discussions of that, we did consider a lot of things between it all. Augmenting existing coverage with short-term coverage from the Sheriff's Department to get us through the budget cycle and into next year, whether we should hire a temporary senior officer to kind of oversee the department while we're making any decision, because pretty much everything has a timeline. we need some resources in the moment immediately, and what we're looking at, whether we do a direct hire, whether we go out for applications, whether we went through an oral board again, whether we decided the sheriff's department plays a role and how significant that role would be. Everything really kind of came down to there's a lot of moving parts. There'd be a lot of staffing concerns to hiring processes, background checks that take time. So with all of that, this board had concluded that in the short term, we should staff with a senior personnel, a lieutenant's position to oversee this department in the short term. That allows us a lot of flexibility in our decision going forward, whether we go with a full-time police chief this year or next year, but it gives us the opportunity to work with the budget committee to secure funding and go through the vetting process of any decision for staffing that this board would like to make sure that the budget committee is on board, because the budget committee is the one who supplies the budget for town meeting. A lot of people think it's our budget, but it's not. We don't have control over that. We make suggestions, and the budget committee can decide to fund and to what level or not to fund. So, as a consensus, this board decided we would think our partnership with the budget committee is the most crucial step. We have started that process just recently. The first committee meeting was on the 20th of July, and now we're going to enter in the fall season in these discussions. So, pending the outcome of where we are with the budget committee, we're looking to bring in a lieutenant to work with our department, and that individual will be coming in to speak with us in regards to that appointment. It's a temporary part-time position at this point, and that's pretty much where I was with it. Does anybody want to add anything here? Tom, Chuck?
Good summary.
Okay. Then that's where we're going to leave off on that. It was a couple of weeks that we really ran through a lot of scenarios. We did a lot of work on budget scenarios and all our options. So I think at least to this point, it's very well thought out at least we believe it's very well thought out as far as the decision-making process. And with that, I don't believe I have any other items that need to be gone into today.
So you have an actual interview slated for this part-time temporary position?
Actually, we have the individual coming in is going to go over some last-minute items with us, a little bit of impromptu interview. Short of that, this person is our pick, and we'll be filing applications. We'll have his resume on file. All the paperwork will be brought in so that can be processed by Administrator Burke. And the board is just going to sit one last time with this person and walk through any concerns that individual has, any operational concerns this board has, and that'll be it until we, like I said, we get through the budget process and have a consensus from those other stakeholders that the board has to work with in determining what everything's going to look like for the PD at the end of discussions with the budget committee. We're pretty comfortable. We know where it's going to end up, but we need to be inclusive of others in this. So, with that, does anybody have anything else that they'd like to bring forward?
All set.
All set. Brian, you good?
I'm good.
You gonna be around tomorrow?
I am.
Oh, isn't that good? We got somebody you're gonna like to meet. Okay. Christine, anything from us?
I'd just like to ask Chuck, with the transfer station compilation of funds coming in, what exactly are you looking for? Do you want this on a weekly breakdown, a monthly breakdown?
I'm just curious. Monthly it should be at least reported out.
Okay.
so that the board and the public understand what monies have been accumulated in that reserve fund.
Okay,
But that's kind of the level of detail. There needs to go any deeper than that.
you don't want like the categories broken down, like how many couches, how many washing machines?
I don't think we need how many couches, how many washing machines. But I do think we need it broken down based on the line items in the budget. That'll debris, demo, what those things that are in. And I would suggest that we do it monthly because that's going to be how the report comes from waste management, recycle, rather than weekly.
I agree with that. I'm thinking though, with Christine, and for our purposes here at the board, I think you're 100% right. I think Chuck is considering and Christine's considering maybe a more detailed analysis that Chuck is trying to perform so that how many couches come in, how does that affect our demo price? Is that pricing for a couch a good price? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? But I'll leave that to Chuck to do.
See, that's why I was kind of hesitating when Chris asked that question, because we could spend a week, a month, trying to get all this detail down.
Well, I've been compiling this data, that's why, should I continue with this, or am I done?
Let's talk, because I truly want to weigh the cost and time of doing this versus the perceived benefit for us on the other end.
Absolutely. And
So that if it's not something that we think is totally beneficial, then we won't dedicate that time to it. Chris can do other things.
well, I personally am happy to let you and Chris work that out so she can be reflective of the time spent, and Brian may want to be part of that conversation as well.
I don't know that we're at, excuse me, the point where we can do that breakdown and be convinced of the exactness of the figures. Because I listened to Christine at times, and we have to make sure that the weekly report that we get off the cash register at the transfer station is consistent with what we need. Last time they did some kind of a Z account. I'm trying to stay away from that cash register. And they were supposed to do an X account.
No,
and
it was X, but they were supposed to.
All right, whichever.
Yeah.
But what it did is it didn't break down the same way. So you don't have the same data coming every week. And so we've got to be consistent with what we're getting from data from the machine. And that requires some more training to make sure that
The data collection is the issue.
and so I'm a little concerned, Chuck, that you're gonna get skewed figures, you won't know.
Well, that's, and quite frankly, because of the way we've been collecting it, we end up with a ballpark. We're not gonna end up with exact numbers. So there's a cost-benefit analysis with that. It's like, if you know you're not gonna get detailed information that's accurate, is it worth the effort to even try and compile partial information based on all the work, the other work we gotta do in the town? So I'll work with Chris, and we'll have an update next week.
You good with that, Tom? Yeah, okay. Sounds good to me. Would anybody want to take the insurance commissioner one, or would you? I'm happy to do it. I've got it on my list, but if anybody else feels passionate about it, I'm certainly glad to hand off.
No, I'm gonna work on contracts, so.
Okay. All right, then.
You got it.
I do have, something, it was in my box here on oil collection stuff, and, since Tom.
That was the other thing that was on your work session for tomorrow.
There it is. So, oh, you've got one? Okay, good. And it's in my work session file now. All right, with that, I think we've covered everything. Anybody else want to weigh in before we adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second that. Okay, Hal and I.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And